Hi, everybody. We're on day 19 of our 30 days of Facebook Live. This is Lynda again. So happy to see everybody. It's always really nice. We take a couple of days off and then we have our team alternate every day. And the momentum has been going really great. Lots of great feedback. Everybody's asking questions and stuff. And so I'm waiting for some of my gals to come on. Hey, Amy. Always on. Amy's always on point, no matter where she is, whether it's Australia or China. We're definitely here to serve, and we're really excited to support everybody with information of value. And thank you for tuning in. Jennifer is on too. Hey, Jennifer, how are you? Anyways, today we're going to talk about happiness, and is that a trainable skill? We're also going to talk about hope, and ultimately we want to really tap into depression a little bit and how it's actually preventable, and how there are skills that we can learn and that we can train our students and ourselves to be able to form new habits and to reprogram and rewire our brain to operate in different ways, so that when we go into the world, we know how to shift and to reframe things and to support ourselves in ways that will empower us, as overall health and wellness, as well as psychologically and socially too. And so when we went into the schools in November, we started off by talking about communication, language, and sex. And it was really funny because as we walked into the classrooms and we were sharing with the kids what that meant and what we're going to do and the different modules that we're going to deliver, the teachers were asking us, well, what's going on? This module, there's nothing about sex in here. You guys aren't talking about the actual act of sex. But in order for us to get there, to actually have the students connect the dots, we had to really allow them to be able to relate to the world around them. Like, what does it mean to be consenting? What does it mean to communicate? How does it affect you on the playground, in the lunchroom, with your friends? And then you move on to your social and your sexual intimate relationships, and how do you show up in that way? How do you use your language and use your words, understand how it feels like in your body when you're feeling tense, when you're feeling scared, when you're feeling joy, or you're feeling really happy and excited. And so to be able to understand how our body reacts physiologically, then we're able to show up in different ways, in different situations, and it's not going to be as challenging for us, but we have to be able to connect the dots in all different ways. And so that first module, we talked about language communication. We didn't tap into sex and sexual health right away, but that's going to be coming along in the next modules and stuff. And so as I'm talking today about, is happiness and is hope a trainable skill? It definitely is. And it comes back again to being able to relate and connect and understand our body and how we react to stress and tension and love and joy and happiness and friendship, right? And so not to dive into the science of it so much, because, I'm definitely gonna be taking a whole hour to do that. But ultimately, happiness and hope, they are trainable skills, and our habits really do form the way that we show up in the world. They always say that, it's the people that you hang out with. You make new friendships in different phases of your life. I think there was a study that said that every 7 years we actually make new friends, and our cycle changes because every year our body changes too physically. Our skin falls off and we're a brand new person every year or so. And so every 7 years we evolve and we change so much that our friendships change, and they change because our habits change. And habits are what create our reality. And so if every day you're living and your habits are, I'm just going to watch TV, I'm just going to sit here and just allow the collective consciousness, whatever it is, healthy or not healthy, to come in, I receive everything without even questioning it, then that's going to be your reality. You're not going to be able to have different default modes and be able to shift and to be able to be what you need to be in the world. And so our habits are our reality, and the friends that we choose, the community that we decide to seek and to be a part of, they're going to be our environment. And so that's a choice that we can make. And so happiness is something that we can train ourselves every day. And they say that 10% of the times our internal reality affects our happiness. No, I'm sorry. 10% of the time our external reality, our external environment, is what makes us happy or not happy. But 90% of it is actually our internal. And so our internal is dependent on how we show up for ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, what kind of habits, what kind of mantras, what kind of practices that we develop for ourselves and cultivate and do every day. It's a discipline, it's an everyday practice. The rituals that we have to be very diligent about, And so whenever I have clients, I always remind them that it's really important to set up rituals for yourself. It's really important to have habits that you come to every day, that you know that it's safe, that it's sacred, that it's something that you can ground yourself on. And so for me, every morning I have a very specific practice. I wake up and I have meditation. I don't require myself to do an hour or 2 hours of meditation every morning if I can't, because sometimes when you demand so much of yourself that you don't reach that point, you get really disappointed really easily. So I would say probably start small. Say that, every morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes. And those meditations will be very intentional. I'm going to focus on what I'm grateful for and what I appreciate and how I want to show up in the world today. And then you can breathe in, do meditation, do mindful breath work, do the heart focused meditation that I mentioned in the last stream. And that's a science-backed, very measurable meditation that HeartMath does. And we're breathing in, we're thinking about gratitude and appreciation. And then you step into the world and you're able to really be present and intentional about what you want to do and how you want to show up and how you want to offer your gifts and your talents to the world. And so certain little habits like that are really important to help us become more happier and healthier. And then hope and happiness are kind of the same thing, because it allows us to see the world in a bigger picture kind of way. It allows us to feel connected to the world. It allows us to have things to look forward to. They often say that if we have things calendared in our calendar, like, we plan, well, I'm going to take a trip with my girlfriends once a year. Even if you don't see them, you only see them once or twice a year, to have that in your calendar, to be able to look forward to that is actually something that boosts your happiness. And connection, like we mentioned many times, is a definite factor in happiness. And loneliness is such an epidemic right now. And all of us, we go to work, we go to school, we have so many different communities, but connection is so important. Connection is not just about, online Facebook friends, but it's actually about cultivating those real intimate friendships where you can be vulnerable and raw, and you can share your stories, you can be heard and witnessed and seen. So at the Magic of Psalm, we're really encouraging of that kind of environment, and we connect with each other as sisters on a daily basis to cheer each other on and to support each other and to hear about all of our struggles and our challenges as well as our victories. And to be able to go out there and seek those communities and those environments and those intimate friendships that you can show up for and they can show up for you in real ways, and that you'll not judge each other, but you'll support each other, not enable each other, but offer each other ideas and options and knowledge and wisdom. That's how you feel like you belong to something bigger than you. That's how you feel that you're not so disconnected from the world. Sometimes when we feel so powerless, we end up either doing, a few things. I notice that when people feel powerless, I'll speak for myself, that there have been moments in the past where when I didn't have the skills and I didn't know how to show up and I felt powerless, what I would do is I would either isolate myself, I'd become really angry and resentful at other people. I would start projecting very misguided, thinking that, well, it's everybody's fault, but not mine. And everybody's against me, the world's against me. And why me, right? But, when you get to another place of consciousness and you train yourself, you start thinking about gratitude and appreciation. And every day you write out those lists, or you create a jar for yourself. I forget who it was, but one of the thought leaders out there, every day, it's Elizabeth Gilbert, actually, one of my favorite authors, Eat, Pray, Love. And she would create a jar. And every day she would write a little bit of gratitude or something that she appreciates, and she put it in the jar, and then she'd fold it up. And then by the end of the year or mid-year or months later, there'll be a whole bunch of little post-its and little gratitude notes that, okay, well, today a stranger bought me coffee, or yesterday my best friend, complimented me, or she bought me lunch, or the other day mom did this for me. Just little things that you're grateful for that you might not have noticed, that you take for granted, that you sometimes don't realize are really special things. And it's a part of this humanity of us being connected and being friends and taking care of each other, right? And so if you put that in a little jar, and on the days when you're feeling a little bit stressed out or lonely, and you open it up and you get this whole adrenaline rush of serotonin, just all this boost of happiness, because I remember that. I remember when that coworker was really nice to me. I remember when that friend was patient with me, or I remember when that stranger was kind to me and I was having a really bad day. And then I'll remind you that these are very simple things that other people did for you that allowed you to feel supported and proud and happy to be alive. That maybe that's something that you should consider going out there and doing for the world. I mentioned this before. An activist mentioned that when you're feeling helpless, go out there and help other people. And that's the one thing that I always go to whenever I'm feeling a little bit down, is that I get a really enormous serotonin rush, enormous oxytocin when I go out there and I find ways to help other people. And it doesn't have to be big ways. It could just be a smile. It could just be a simple text. It could just be reaching out to friends and family and trying to empathize and see what they're going through or exactly how they're feeling, instead of being so controlling, so well, this is how it has to be, or I assume that you're this way. And if the dynamic or the energy is not healthy or it's kind of blocked, then give it some time and just back off and be patient. But even that patience, that surrender and that energetic lift and lightness that you allow in your space, even if you're not talking to these people, the world feels it, the universe feels your lightness and your love. And what I do sometimes when I'm feeling really heavy and I'm feeling like I don't know how to lift this weight or this hopelessness, is that I start chanting. I either do specific chants from prayers. I grew up Catholic, I grew up religious, and even though right now I'm very spiritual and open and not specifically to any religion, I did grow up Christian, and there are a lot of different proverbs and psalms and everything. And the magic of that, right? The magic of song, the magic of verse and song and praise. It's just literally, it's just words. It's just language. It's just storytelling. It's just affirmations that you're saying out loud. And when you do this on a regular, consistent basis, your neural pathways, your brain starts changing, and you start becoming happier and more hopeful because you start realizing that you are in control. You are the co-creator of your reality. And I'm not saying that everything is going to become wonderful overnight. What I am saying is that you start becoming lighter. You start realizing that it's okay, and that you can surrender, and that you can set the intention, make the plan, but you can also let go and allow whatever to come your way, right? And so happiness is being able to be very intentional about your life, about how you're going to show up in the world, about your habits, about your routines. And those are little tips and tricks to be able to bring you to that place of more hope and more happiness. One of my really good friends and colleague, she actually runs an organization called Project Happiness. You all should check it out when you get the chance. They actually had a documentary that's on Netflix right now. It's streaming, and they interviewed Richard Gere, the Dalai Lama, and multiple people and people from different countries, and talking about the whole project and art and science of happiness, and is it trainable? Is it a skill that we can teach our students? And she has a whole program that she delivers to schools, and she's one of my really good friends and advisors, and I sometimes talk to these different experienced people who have been in the nonprofit, in the world of self-help and self-improvement, to really teach us that, okay, so there are ways to train our students. There are ways to train ourselves to become more hopeful, more happy. And then one of our immediate advisors, Catherine, she's actually running an organization called hope.org. And that too is a whole curriculum based on training ourselves and training our students, training them how to become more hopeful. And some of the tips that she gives is that, a journal, everyday journal, exactly what you're grateful for, journal what you are appreciating, and focus on light and love and different colors and shapes. And you're supposed to, you act the way you want to feel, right? People always think that, well, I'm feeling this way, so that's why I'm acting this way. That's just how it is. I'm just gonna be this way, and nobody can change it. Well, that's a choice that you make, and that's something that you decide upon. But quite frankly, there are ways for you to actually step into how you want to feel. So you act it, and then neurologically you start believing it. And then they always said, fake it till you make it. And that sounds kind of weird, but it's actually true. So another way to phrase that is act the way you want to feel. Get up so you can get better. I remember when I was going through a funk back in the day, I would lay there, right? I would lay there and I'd feel so lost and so tired and so fatigued. And then I started Googling and reading different articles and blogs. And then I started realizing, okay, well, these make sense. These practical tips and tools make sense, that I need to get up. When I get up, I start moving my body. I start releasing that block energy. We talked about that multiple times too, is that all the trauma and all the pain and all the stress is in your body, and it's in your neck, or it's in your hip, or it's in your lower back. I think, with me, whenever I'm carrying stress, it's always on my lower back. There's a lot of energy that's stuck there. And I know some of my colleagues and friends, they carry it on their shoulder. And so wherever it is in your body, you have to start moving around. And it might feel counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but actually it really helps. There's this one very ancient, very well-known breath work. It's like the bellow breath. It's called the Bhastrika, and every yoga tradition teaches it. And when I was in Kundalini training, they taught Bhastrika a lot too. And Bhastrika is pretty much ultimately you're just inhaling really strong, like that, right? It's called the breath of fire. It's called the Bhastrika. And then sometimes we put our arms up and do that too. And we just go, ha, 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 inhaling, exhaling really strongly. And then, the thing with that is you can look it up. It's called the breath of fire. It's called Bhastrika. It's really well known in most yoga traditions. And it's really effective. And you would think that it's counterintuitive for you to do that when you're having anxiety, when you're feeling depressed, because I'm so exhausted. I'm feeling really nervous and anxious. But actually, I always recommend to my clients that when you're actually having an anxiety attack, to pause for a moment and actually to start doing that really heavy breathing, to do the breath of fire. You pull your hands down, up and down, or you don't have to. You're just in your car, just breathe in, breathe out really heavily. Right? You think, well, I'm already breathing, I'm already hyperventilating heavily. But when you do that, you actually stabilize it and you start grounding yourself and start becoming more balanced. That's why, they give they give Adderall to students and to patients who have ADHD, right? You're already really high and scattered and distracted and running with 1,000 thoughts a minute. And so Adderall actually causes you to do that. But in essence, when you already have that, it actually balances you out and it calms you down. But somebody who does not have ADHD who takes Adderall, they actually get a different effect. It's actually too much for them, right? They actually become too, crazy and out there and excited. But for somebody who's already having anxiety, who's already kind of hyperventilating, actually it's really good for you to start doing that really strong breath work in and out, really mindful breathing in and setting that intention for yourself to go, okay, this is what I'm doing, I'm okay, everything's perfect, I'm safe, I'm grounded, I'm protected. And those affirmations are really important. And like I said in a different stream, that before you go to sleep, to set the intention for yourself, set the intention that tonight I'm going to go to sleep and I feel really grounded, I feel really protected, and that I want to connect more to my, I want to connect more to my confident side, I want to connect more to my vulnerable side, I want to really heal certain wounds or certain challenges or stories that I had in my head. And so when you set intentions everywhere you go, it supports you and it helps you and it gives you a focus and a vision, right? And to be able to have goals and visions, that's what keeps us happy. That's what keeps us excited. And happiness and hope are very trainable skills. I learned it. I was able to get myself out of a funk, many years ago when I was, stuck in this really dark phase of my life. And I went through that, quarter life crisis in my late 20s. And I felt really helpless. I felt really lost and I felt really blocked. And when I started learning these tools, I realized, wow, this is pretty easy. And not to say, even to this day, even to the day that, I'm old and gray, I'll always have challenges and I'll always have, situations that will confront me and force me to be vulnerable and to feel all the feelings that I'm feeling. And so if I didn't have these foundational tools and I didn't know how to set these habits up for myself, and if we don't teach the students in the schools at an early age, and if we don't remind each other and bring this and deliver this even to the leaders, then every time there's a confronting issue or a challenge or a trigger that comes our way, and that's life, right? We're going to have losses, we're going to have failures, we're going to have moments when it's so unpredictable, it's uncontrollable. So what do? So if we have these skills, we know that we can, okay, so this is what I'm feeling, and I can connect to my body. I know this is how I'm feeling physiologically. Sometimes my back hurts. That's a sign that emotionally I'm kind of off sync and I need to figure it out. I need to breathe. I need to be compassionate with myself instead of just lashing out at people. And even if somebody's lashing at you, it's not going to be effective or productive if you lash back. And so how do you get to that place where you can be calm and grounded, but still be confident and in command? And so it takes practice, but it's doable. And happiness is a habit that you can learn. And it takes practice, but it's doable. And depression is a real thing, and it's a chemical imbalance. And it's your cortisol increasing and coming into your body, and it's just overwhelming for a lot of people. And some of us receive it and deal with it and balance it better. And sometimes these practices work, but sometimes for a lot of folks, medicine and medication is necessary. So I'm not against medication, but nor am I for it. I think that that's something you have to talk to your doctors about. But I feel like there are many different alternatives to really explore before you kind of just agree to anything specifically, right? So if somebody tells you that this is what you need, medication might be helpful, okay, consider it and talk to your doctor. Hopefully that's your doctor that's telling you. And then, also go out there and really explore different ways of thinking, different ways of being, and different ways of training your mind to use different language, to tell yourself different stories and different narratives. Like we mentioned the last streams, narrative and stories and subconscious belief is everything. And that's what causes you to become really hopeless and helpless. And that's what causes you to become really empowered and confident and connected. Because if I feel like I'm helpless and like I'm feeling really powerless, and I allow my body to just stay in that state, and I don't move it, and I don't find different ways or different exercises or different rituals to just kind of shake that energy off, I'm not going to be able to show up in the world in a way that will be connecting. I'm going to start blaming people for everything. I'm going to start, challenging other people or projecting my fears and my pains on other people. And what happens with that? What happens with that? Nobody's going to want to work with me. Nobody's going to want to be my friend. And so then, they always say that, if you keep on thinking the thoughts that you think, if you keep on having the thoughts that you have, you'll keep on doing the same things that you do. And if you keep on doing the same things that you always do, you'll keep on getting the same results you always have gotten. And so then it's like a cycle where you start believing that this is how the world is because you keep on thinking those same thoughts, then you keep on doing the same things, and then you keep on getting the same results because people keep responding to you in the same ways because that's how you're showing up. Then you start believing that the world is this horrible place, right? And the world is exactly what you want it to be. I'm not saying that everything is perfect and grand. There's a lot of heartbreak and there's a lot of suffering, and that's why we have to show up in these powerful ways. We have to train our minds. We have to help our students learn how to do these things so that they can be the counteract, they can be the positive, they can be the love and light in the world. Regardless of what comes our way, we can deflect it with love, we can show up with love, and we can speak in empowered and positive ways. But also we can be confident with boundaries and commands so that if somebody pushes us, and if there's something that is just not just and that is just ridiculous, then you can also stand up for yourself as well. Because boundaries are super important too, to be able to cultivate and to sustain a lifestyle that will allow you that happiness and that love that you want. Because there are times when things are unhealthy and you have to be able to be conscious and to know what is healthy and what's not healthy as well, right? And so at the Magic of Psalm, a really enormous part of our curriculum is that we teach our students to feel confident, to feel empowered, to know these different tricks and tools and strategies to be happier and healthier, to know that they can actually learn. You can actually learn a lot of things. Like I mentioned, everybody has the capacity. Everybody has all the resources they need. When I say resources, I'm not saying you have $1 million. That will happen if that's what you want. But what you do have is you have all the resources to get yourself to that place. The resources mean you have the confidence, you have the resiliency, you have the persistence, the patience, the love, the connection, and the rawness that will attract and magnetize people towards you to help you, right? You have that honesty and that authenticity, that pureness that you know that you can go out there. And if there's something you don't know, if there's things that you need, then other people will come and help you and support you because your intentions are pure. And so you have all the resources that you need. You just have to be able to tap into it. You have to be really clear about what you want. So intentions are really important. Once that happens, then everything else just manifests so easily and effortlessly. And if we teach our students and we remind ourselves and we deliver this curriculum and this concept and this philosophy into the world, it'll remind everybody that everything is figure outable. Everything is figure outable. And this is such an important topic that I'm not going to dive completely deep into, but that's why heart math is around. That's why these organizations of bringing transformative technology into the world, of like meditation apps, of self-help stuff, and teaching students and leaders about resiliency and how do we get back to that heart rate variation where we're calm and we're coherent. Because when you're calm and you're coherent and you're stepping into the world, you bring that energy into the field, and other people become calm and coherent when they're around you. But if you're always erratic and you're always living in a place of fear, then that's the reality that you're going to create for yourself, right? And so we connect to a lot of these partners, these different organizations that support us at the Magic of Psalm, so that we can bring this curriculum into the world, into the schools, and to support, the culture in our society to really shift the narrative from a place of fear to a place of love, to a place of empowerment, to a place of boldness and confidence, because we have to start speaking up. We have to start sharing our stories and being our most bold, fulfilled, joyful, authentic self. And we're all going through a lot. There's a lot of challenges in the world, a lot of things that are happening, a lot of crazy stuff too. But again, there's a way for us to show up so that we can support and counteract all these negative energies, right? We have a choice. And so at the Magic of Psalm, we want to completely, continuously, consistently always remind our students that they have a choice. They always have a choice. They own their body. They own their mind, their brain. They own everything that is right here now, that they have a choice, and they have the support and resources and the educators to help them learn the tools and the tips and the ways to show up fully, powerfully, and confidently, right? And there are ways for them to become that happy, that joyful, that hopeful person. Actually, I read that 1 out of 9 students have tried to commit suicide before they graduated high school. That's 1 out of 9 students. And where that anxiety, where that depression comes from, the pain or the heartbreak or the isolation or the feeling of disconnection, it comes from somewhere. And I remember when I was growing up, I know a lot of my girlfriends and friends too, it's such an impressionable phase of our life that we're always wanting to feel connected. We're always wanting to feel we belong to something. And we always want to feel like people accept us, right? And so there's a lot of harassment going on in schools too. And when we're teaching our students about anti-bullying, one of my really good friends has a organization. She's mentored us as well. It's called Soul Shop, and she goes into the schools and she supports a curriculum, and she delivers a curriculum about anti-bullying and how do you teach the students to collaborate, to work with each other, to be able to stand up for themselves and to have boundaries and to be more empathetic. So all these different programs that are out there in the world, I'm really excited to know that we have these opportunities to come together as a collective to support each other in our different missions, but to know that at the end of the day, bottom line is that we're all here to serve, and we're all here to bring these tools to the students. So, 1 out of 9 students have tried to commit suicide or have successfully committed suicide before they graduated high school. And I think over 44,000 people in the US have committed suicide. And obviously that comes from imbalances, that comes from depression, that comes from medication, that comes from hopelessness, that comes from a lot of things. That comes from, the inability to see that there's a better day. And, whether it's a haze that you're feeling today, or it's just an ongoing, disease or a mental illness that you have, there are resources, there are tools, and there are hotlines. And I think one of my gals is going to post the National Suicide Hotline too, and we at the Magic of Psalm, we've all experienced a lot of heartache, and we've all experienced loved ones who have gone through mental illness, and we've all experienced suicide on one level or another very intimately, And so we are very empathetic, we're very understanding. We know that talking about comprehensive sex education is not just talking about sexual health. It's being able to tap into the whole system, to be able to connect to the human being as a whole. And so in order for us to see the students, to see each other, we have to know exactly what we're going through. We have to be able to offer them that platform, that place, that safety, that container to share their stories and to teach them as tools and to remind ourselves and to retrain ourselves constantly and to have those daily rituals and practices so that we know that we can learn anything we want to learn. We know that these are skills that we can learn. We know that there's a way for us to see that better day, to be more hopeful, to be more happy. And so we dive in to that quite a bit in our curriculum. We talk a lot about emotional intelligence, a lot about resiliency, a lot about the hope of the science of hope, and also the science of happiness, which are two real things. And we have advisors and other organizations and partnerships that support us with that research and that curriculum as well, to bring it into ours and to deliver it to the schools, to the students. And so if there are any questions, I don't know who's on right now. There's a few people who are on, but if there's any questions, I'd love to get some questions. I know that for me, whenever I'm feeling hopeless, like I said, I start doing the Bastrika, I start doing the bellow breath work, and I start chanting. Sometimes I chant just like a frequency, and that's my thing. I just ground myself out. Or sometimes I start reading through the Bible, and it's not that I'm so religious, but it's more like, it's kind of like an affirmation. It's kind of like a consistent kind of like mantra, in the book of Psalms or in different proverbs and stuff. There are really positive, productive, and helpful mantras and affirmations that support me during times of like restlessness or hopelessness. And it reminds me that there are other people out there in history in the world that have gone through the same things that I've gone through. And to know that, our pain and our suffering, it's not so isolated, that it's a part of the human experience. And also to know that our joy and our love and our happiness and our bliss, it's also something that we can share, and we can know that it's a part of this whole, gorgeous human experience. And to get to that place, to know that it's all just, we're all one, it's all just so beautiful and so connected. And to get to that place, take some time, take some patience, take some meditation. But once you do, you realize that, it's not, not one person's blessed with it. She wasn't born with that skill, and I just can never learn it. It's something that we can actually teach you, so that you can actually learn and practice and diligently every day create those rituals of that, and set aside that time for yourself so that you can meditate on your intentions, create those habits, find the people and the friends who can actually go out there and support you, and to exercise those habits or do those things or engage in those activities that are productive, that are powerful, that are healthy with you, right? And so community is really important. Connection is really important. Learning very practical, basic skills of how to cultivate and sustain your happiness is really important. Knowing that hope is something that you can learn, that you can train your mind, and you can start living into that reality that you designed for yourself, you can start stepping into it because you have all the resources you need. And to remind yourself daily that I have the choice. I just need to go out there and find the connections and find the people and find the training and find the communities that can support me, that could give me that kind of training and knowledge that I need. You know, we're in this paradigm, this new age now where information is everywhere. You know, you don't have to go on a mountaintop anymore. You can go and you can check out, you know, different communities like ours. You can talk to different teachers. You can pick up the phone and call different coaches, and you'll get free information everywhere. And it's just so abundant. But it's all about getting to that place where you allow yourself to. You show up, you wake up, you move around, you start doing exercise, you start doing breath work. You move the energy in you, which we can teach you to be able to show up in a real way, to be able to exercise and use these tips and tools to allow you to live the life that you want. And these are the same things that we integrate into our curriculum to support our students, to remind them, to give them that perspective, that mentality, that mindset, that growth mindset, where they go out into the world, it's always growth, it's always growth. And even though it's heartbreaking, even though it's painful, even though the Me Too movement, like Amy mentioned yesterday, was really overwhelming and scary, and all of us were stepping up and saying, well, I was raped when I was 16, and I couldn't talk about it, and I was scared, and I felt judged, and here I am. And another person shows up and go, well, I was, violated when I was 8, and this is what happened, this is what happened. And in a sense, like the last few months have been crazy with all these different stories, and like it felt, on one level, it felt really overwhelming and really negative, but in the bigger picture of things, wow, right? I feel very grateful and very blessed to be alive right now because we're finally showing up. And so I bring that up because, in every heartbreak and every suffering and every challenge, there is a way for us to tap into that growth mindset. There's a way for us to realize that we can grow and we can serve and we can empower ourselves through our challenges, through our humility, through the heartbreak. We can become more empathetic. We can become more connected. We can become more present, and we can support the people around us, and we can live the life that we want. Because now we know that, if I was able to survive that, I think that I can survive a lot of things, and you can. And there are ways for you to learn the tools, to be able to show up, to be able to be resilient, to be able to take care of yourself, and to know that you are worthy, you are enough, that you are worthy and you are enough. And there are people like us out there who truly want to serve and truly want to help you. So you just have to reach out. And if you feel like you can't reach out to us because you want to be anonymous, there are hotlines, there are other resources that you can actually call and connect to that can help you. Local resources, national resources. So please, please reach out. Please support each other. Please look into the science of happiness. Look into the science of hope. Check out the different tips and tools that we're talking about. Look at our advisor Catherine's website, hope.org. And think about that. Try to train your mind to realize that there is always a way to figure anything out if you have the right community around you and if you have the right mindset. You can go out there, you can learn, you can grow. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet today. Maybe get off, a little online and just go and start doing some breath work. Maybe tonight you can start, opening up your journal and writing more about what you're grateful for and what you learned today and putting it into a little jar. Or maybe you can just chant, or you can just think and you just read out loud your affirmations of how you want to live your life in the next week, in the next month, in the next year, and set goals for yourself. Or call your girlfriends up and your bros up and just go ahead and plan out, oh, you know what, maybe in 6 months we should take this trip, maybe in 3 months we should do this. Or guys, what do you think about setting up a yearly thing, and in our minds, to be able to know that there's something to look forward to actually encourages us and motivates us and pushes us to show up and be happy and work and feel more fulfilled, right? I'll just end with one last story. Is that I've had clients and I've had stories of clients where they come and they try to get therapy, hypnotherapy or coaching or NLP sessions, and some of them are going through cancer and pretty terminal diseases. And the first thing I was taught, and I was directed by my hypnotherapy director years ago, is that the first thing you ask them is, do you want to live? And you would think that that's strange. Why would you ask somebody who's coming for help, do you want to live? And it really challenged me at first, because I'm like, that's a really weird question. But then I had to ask myself, why did it challenge me? And it challenged me because sometimes we want to force things on people, right? Sometimes we want to assume, we want to push it, and if they're not ready, and if they're not able to receive it, they're not going to receive it no matter what we do. And it's actually really cruel for us to keep pushing ourselves on people. But when we ask our clients, do you want to live? We require them to really assess what it is and why they're here with us and what it is that they're trying to receive and what do they want to learn. And most of them say yes. Yes, I want to live. And then once they say that, I go, okay, so if you want to live, let me show you the steps to become more hopeful, become more happy. Let me show you ways to reprogram, rewire your brain. Let me put you through these sessions and help you with your subconscious. And they go through that. And then with some of them, they were told that, oh, you're only going to have 2 years to live or 3 years to live. And so they're trying to seek out different alternative, methods or practices. And what we do in our hypnotherapy is that we actually, future pace them. We future pace them. What that means is that we let them see what their life would be like when they're 60. You're going to see your daughter graduate from high school. You're going to be able to walk your daughter down the aisle. You're going to be able to build that company. You're going to be able to finish that book, that memoir that you always wanted to write. And giving them these different plans and goals and visions, and then they start kind of like programming into their mind. And they actually start living into it. They start actually being able to live longer because of it. And there was actually a story that my director told me that, one time there was a client that came in and the therapist or the coach actually only future paced him 10 years forward. And so when she did that, he was actually able to realize and live through those different events that he planned. And strangely, we're not sure exactly what happened, weird phenomena, he actually passed away right when he hit that point, 65 or whatever. And they didn't, during their sessions, future pace him past 65. And so that study and multiple studies of that kind of remind you that goals and envisioning and knowing that you have something to look forward to is very important. And then when you're talking to your friends and your family, being able to give them that kind of like that growth, that goal, that bigger vision kind of mindset allows them to be more hopeful and more connected to the bigger picture, connected to the world around them, to feel like they belong, to feel like they have something to live for. And purpose and meaning is so important. And when you're feeling down, to be able to connect to a purpose, to be able to connect to meaning that's more than you, that's more than just a little me, is what will help you really stay supported and connected and alive and wanting to see another day. So the hotline is there, support is there, we're here. And if there's anything that we've said so far in all of our streams that hit you in a certain way, that triggered you, that made you piss off, or that really made you feel held or supported or loved, or you want to hear more, you want us to collaborate, please reach out, and allow us to share more with you or to ask questions or give us feedback. And we are a nonprofit, and so we're in the phase where we're trying to raise money to literally just right now, bring more workbooks and more materials to the students. And so if you can offer us any of your support, your love, donations monthly or just one time, we'll be very grateful in receiving that. And we have a little gift to send to you and a little personal note. We're also going to be launching our Kickstarter next week too. It's going to be coming from, not Kickstarter, it's actually going to be coming from a website called ifundwoman.com for female social change makers out there like ourselves to go out there and raise the money and the funds that we need to launch our projects. It is very important, very community, student-oriented project of ours, the Magic of Song, which we're passionate and we're waking up every day doing these social media, live Facebook. We're doing it out of the love of our heart because we know how important this is, that this needs to be in the world. So if you want to stand with us, if you want to be a part of this movement, if you want to support us in this time, this revolution, when women are stepping up, please reach out. Whether you're a man, you're a woman, whether you've been through sexual trauma, whether you have challenges and want to wonder, did I do something that I could have done something better? Are there ways for me to approach women in a different way? Are there conversations or workshops to help me? Reach out to us and we can give you those resources and we can link you to the appropriate or the right connections, okay? So thank you so much again for tuning in. Thank you, ladies, for showing up. And we're always here for you, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.